Hello!
Hello!
Welcome, hallowed traveller, to the spiritual awakening of the Horus Heresy series, a book long foretold in the prophecies that now we are only getting to. Welcome to Warhammer Book Club. I'm Arbiter.
I'm Mira Manga,
and we are doing
the first heretic.
The first heretic.
Welcome
Hi.
everybody.
Hi,
Can
everyone.
you see how excited Ian is that we've finally got to this book?
Great. I play these guys. I mean, I play a lot of different things, but play these guys. Anyway, hi, welcome to the book club. We are people, and we do a book club. It's like a normal book club. You can read along, and then we'll talk about it together. Yeah. But also, it's about Warhammer. So we only do Warhammer things. You could be watching this on YouTube. Mm-hmm. You could be listening to it as a podcast, which is a thing you can do.
Podcast.
And if you and if you're not doing either of those things, you might like listening to us do other stuff. Mm-hmm. We both have YouTube channels where I talk about lore and you interview the authors of such books. Yeah. You can find them in the thing below. Also, we both have patrons that you can join for perks, and we both have merch that you can get. You can buy merch and stuff. Maybe I should make some evil demon staking merch. That would be.
Also, we had.
I was staked by Lorgar, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. Yeah,
but Ian also had a really good idea because we love tea, so we're going to make some tea, and what we're going to call it?
4TK.
4TK.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll get to the tea in a second. The first thing is, we're going to do the first heretic.
Yeah.
This is one that everyone's been waiting for us to get to. It's one of the big famous ones, like the last what's the last universally well regarded heresy book? Might even be like Fulcrum
so
or something.
Mean.
No, like there's some of them that are like, we read them and we're like, okay, that happened, but it's maybe like Nemesis was fun, but maybe not much actually happens.
Okay.
And this is like, it's a Legion origin story.
Yeah.
It's really a Legion origin story for the villains of the setting.
Yes.
And it goes very hard into exactly what happened to make them the villains of the setting, arguably. And it's got a lot of really interesting characters. So people were very happy about us doing it. Before we do the plot summary, we should pour the tea.
Yay.
Are you ready for some tea, Mira?
Tea me.
Tea, right. So today's tea. This book, it's kind of dark and dirty, but it might grow on you. This is a very old pu'er tea from China. As you can see, it sort of smells
mushroomy.
It sort of smells earthy. It's basically a fermented tea, and it's a fermented black tea. Sort of smells earthy. I always think it smells like a petting zoo.
A bit of wet dog.
A bit of wet dog in there. But it's very good for you, apparently. It's very it's kind of not as bitter as you'd expect.
No, it's very mild.
But there we are. So we're going to do a earthy, mushroomy, fermented tea to go with our earthy, mushroomy, fermented book. The first heretic. So Mira, take it away.
In a world where everybody tells you that the world bearers are not that bad and you really should read The First Heretic, the pressure you will feel is immense. Without further ado, let's just read this book, which has plagued me since the beginning of our journey and has lots of Emperor bits in it.
It does,
Yeah. I think we just need to get into this, Ian.
All right, fine. Great. Well, it's the first heretic, so we just do it. It's loads happens. There's a lot of summaries. It's going to be a long video, right? Are you ready?
You won't be able to see this because this camera doesn't focus like that, but this whole book is full of highlights, pens, I've just written things like, and stuff like that.
In the margins.
It's
bum staking.
Oh, brother, bum staking. Yeah.
All right, then. Right, well, here we go then. So, we open the first heretic on the planet of Colchis.
Which is lovely.
Which is a desert. It seems very right now in the middle of winter. It seems lovely.
Yeah.
Colchis, of course, actually a place. It's where the Golden Fleece is from.
Oh, they've got beautiful structures.
Beautiful structures. They live on Tatooine, basically.
The people are happy.
People are happy. Well, are they? We see a small boy. Someone comes to the door and takes him away to the Legion.
You're right. We were in Tatooine. We're not on the other planet. No. Ignore everything I said.
Yeah, no, we're in Tatooine, and we open with a small boy on Colchis being recruited by the Word Bearers Legion, and it's going to be our hero, Argel Tal.
Argel Tal.
The nice word bearer.
This everyone goes off about Argel Tal.
Right.
Argel this, Argel that,
Yeah,
and this is Argel's story. And I just have to say, if anyone comes to you as a 5-year-old, I'll look after you. My name's Erebus. That's it. Game over. Life is going to be horrible.
We get that reveal. She asked this is his mum. She asked the question with a smile. I will tell you his name, warrior, but first will you tell me yours? The grey warrior looked down upon the family, meeting the eyes of the parents only once before he stole their child. Erebus, he inferred. Of course, my name's Erebus. I'm the evilest man in the Heresy. Give me your kid. Thank you, Lord Erebus. This is my son, Argel Tal. And Argel Tal gets a startified. We then fast forward, we are 43 years before Isstvan.
Yeah.
And we're on the planet of Kur, in the city of Monarchia, following Cyrene.
Okay.
Who is... Now, this book does this great thing where it presents things as being completely normal and reasonable, and only when you go back and think about it is this quite horrible. She has recently turned 18. Mm-hmm. She is an experienced, we think, sex worker.
Okay.
Yep. She is a shul, which is like a ceremonial, some sort of ceremonial temple prostitute sort of thing.
Okay.
Or something like that. The thing I'm getting is like, you know, Morena Baccarin in Firefly?
Yeah.
She's like a licensed companion, and she's done all the Buddhist teachings.
Yeah.
It feels a bit like that. Anyway, she's a shul. She wears special robes because no one's allowed to touch her.
I didn't pick up on that. I thought she was just like a Vestal Virgin.
I think it's the other thing because an old lady spits at her.
But the thing
which is very
something happened to her after it all goes tits up, and there's like war bands roaming around, like not nice, trigger warning, essay, which made me think they've touched something that should not have been touched.
I think it's more that I think it's more that she's doing like it's like I think it's not a Vestal Virgin. I think it's the opposite of that. Okay. But yeah, no, because there's an old lady who's like, ugh, and she's like, get off me! You're not meant to touch me.
Yeah,
I'm special.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. So. She narrates the opening, and it's about how she loses her sight. The day of judgment stole my eyes, but I can still illuminate you. I remember it all, and why wouldn't I? It was the last thing I ever saw. You came to me asking how my faith survived the day of judgment. I will tell you a secret. When the stars fell, when the seas boiled and the earth burned, my faith didn't die. That's when I began to believe God was real and he hated us. Yeah.
I mean, this is a great book.
The angels come. So this has been formed. This is a planet that worships the emperor and has been worships the god emperor as a divine being,
and has a legion come present as angels to them.
Yeah, and they see this legion that built the planet and brought them into compliance as the angels. The angels come. They're expecting grey angels, but they're blue angels. Ultramarines, and they are dicks.
They're meant to be the goodies.
Yeah.
They're meant to be the goodies. Yeah.
No one is to remain in Monarchia by the dawn of the 7th day. Go now to your homes, gather your belongings, evacuate the city. Resistance will be met with bloodshed. Where will we go? A female voice called from the transfixed crowd. This is our home. And the Ultramarines are like, we don't care. They do actually organise like refugee trains to other cities.
I mean, this really twisted my head because Ultramarines the whole way through I thought are goodies.
Yeah.
And they basically come down and are merciless.
Yeah.
And
well, there are legions that would do this more mercilessly. The Ultramarines are like, you all need to leave the city. We're going to help you. They organise trains and they organise things, but you are all going to leave the city. They don't just come down and kill everybody, which some legions would do, which arguably the word bearers would do.
Yeah, the Space Wolves would.
Yeah. 3 days later, they're herding people out of the city like livestock, apparently. A speeder is a dick to Cyrene when she mentions the God Emperor. She's like, but why? This is the God Emperor city. We've all been good. And they get so angry at her saying that they're like, you're going to get killed if you don't fuck off. 7 days later, they obliterate the city from orbit. An Ultramarine told her on that, when she's asking about the God Emperor, the Ultramarine says, make sure that you look back at dawn on the 7th day to the city, which is him being a dick, because when she does that, she's blinded by the Lance Strike.
Christ.
Yeah. They do 6 other cities too.
Yeah.
The word bearers arrive 2 months later in force. Chapter Master Dumos is leading the chapter of the Osseous throne. Captain Argel Tal and his chaplain Zaphan land and they move to the main gathering, which is in Monarchia, which is a ruin.
Yeah.
They go to the gathering and they complain a bit. They're one of the things they do is they see Corferon, who I don't know if we've met Corferon before.
Yeah,
Briefly,
I think so. Yeah.
He's like Lorgar's adoptive dad.
Who's human,
Yeah.
but has been pumped up to stay.
Like Luther, yeah. And they're like, oh god, that dick. They're like, oh, he's not even a real Marine.
Yeah.
But they're at the big gut thing, and as well as Lorgar,
Yeah.
Malcador and Guilliman are there.
Yes, there's big names coming in here. Yeah.
Malcador says, the world is not. Lorgar's very angry. He's like, this is a compliant world. Malcador says the world is not compliant because it has religion, and the whole point is they're not meant to. Lorgar is like screaming at him and threatening to kill him.
Yeah.
And then the Emperor reveals himself.
Yay! I mean, we should say, when I was talking about earlier, is they've made a really beautiful city. There's loads of statues to the Emp. There's loads of like beautiful buildings, all in praise. It's like a Rivendell for the Emperor. And the Emperor's like, I don't want any of that.
Sort of. Again, with this there's an undercurrent of like, it's a lovely, beautiful city, but it's also like there's a lot of poverty. There's an awful lot of beggars. There's a lot of like she is a child sex worker. Like it's a beautiful city that everyone's happy in. But you're like, well, there's other imperial worlds that are a lot more advanced than this.
Yeah,
but everyone's got a much greater standard of life. It's like it's always on the undercurrent of like they talk about it like it's great, and then you're like, hold on, what is this place?
I know, but I was giving up on seeing nice cities But if you ever do see a nice city, it does just get destroyed. So there is also that. So, yeah, but I was so excited that the Emperor turned up. I mean, you know, I'm always asking about the Emperor as a dad, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not.
He's not being a very nice dad.
He isn't a dad. Main problem that the Primarchs and everyone who reads the Heresy has, which is the Emperor isn't their dad. Yeah. Lorgar. Focused on those eyes now, seeing the warmth of love within the benevolence of trust. The man blinked slowly and his eyes opened again. They were cold with a frigid touch of disappointment, blending into the ice of disgust.
That sounds like a dad.
Lorgar, the man said. His voice was quiet but strong.
Do a proper Emperor voice.
Lorgar, the man said. The voice was quiet but strong, lost in the indecipherable vista between hatred and kindness. Kneel, it whispered with the power of a hammer to the forehead. There was no resisting. Muscles acted instantly, no matter that many hearts fought not to obey. Argel Tal was one of them. This was not fealty, nor worship, nor service. This was slavery, and his instinct rebelled at the enforced devotion even as he obeyed it. 100,000 word bearers kneeled in the dust of the perfect city, rendered prone by imperial decree. A legion was on its knees.
I mean, that's going to look awesome in Henry Cavill's Amazon adaptation of the Heresy.
Lorgar's basically told off for doing religion, and he collapses. Argel Tal,
because he resists his dad. He won't kneel.
He's like, fuck this. He collapses. Argel Tal and Zafan, his chaplain, rush to help him up, which is like the first time they've really been that close to him.
Yeah.
But they like rush to help. And he gets up and he attacks Guilliman. Who basically is like, this is childish, stop being a child. Which is a common theme with Lorgar, acting like an angry
I quite liked it. It was very much younger brother dynamics with the eldest. Do you know what I mean? I think throughout this, Lorgar plays out the baby of the family almost.
Lorgar is sent away to mend his ways. I think the Emperor has like a point, which is like, what you've done warrants like death, but I'm hoping that this very strong warning will mean you see the sense and like go and not do this anymore.
I think even Magnus got a warning
before
they turned up.
So
it's kind of I mean, this was before Magnus, but this still feels quite unfair.
It's quite full on, but
and to have your brother come and do it and rub your face in it. Anyway.
Which Guilliman does not see that he's doing. He's just like, I've been ordered by the Emperor to go and evacuate the city and destroy it, so I have.
Yeah.
And Lorgar's like, you are humiliating me personally. Yeah. And it's like...
That's definitely Lorgar's voice.
You are humiliating me
very teenage.
Yeah. So at the end of it, Lorgar is sent away, but he's given a squad of Legio Custodes to go with him. They're led by Aquilon, the Oculi Imperator, the eyes of the Emperor, and they're there to keep an eye on him.
Yes, and they leave him with a super nanny.
Yeah, and Argel Tal also rescues Cyrene.
Yeah.
Ages later, Lorgar has been in seclusion. So months later, Lorgar has been in seclusion for months, and apparently he's all smelly. He's not come out and washed.
Yeah,
or anything.
he won't. He just
won't wash.
He's gone into depression.
He's
and
gone into the basement.
There's a very good line where they're like,
Dad, I hate you. I'm not coming out.
I won't be able to find this now, but it's basically like they open the chamber and Lorgar's there in a loincloth.
Yeah, yeah.
Just stinking the place out.
Stinking really smelly.
Yeah, yeah,
His
yeah.
eyes are like rigged with old makeup.
Yeah.
Anyway, he speaks to Erebus and Corferon, who basically persuade him that...
Oh shit! Can I just say he hits Malcador?
Yeah, he does. He does hit Malcador.
He breaks his blooming arm or something, and that to me was like, that is really like Malcador so far has been untouchable.
No, that's like your granddad.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like you don't shake your granddad.
Yeah.
But I was really, really shocked.
Anyway,
yeah. Sorry.
No. Yeah, he's doing it. We're getting a good intro to what Lorgar's like. Anyway, so basically, Corferon and Erebus speak to him, and they persuade him that the Emperor must be within the way they think about things. Colchis, very religious planet. The Emperor must actually be a false god, and their job must be to find out where the real ones are.
Oh my god!
That's their response to this. The Emperor says he's not a god, therefore he must have been the wrong god. And we need to find out where the real gods are. Maybe the faith we want is the old faith of Colchis, the one that was because Lorgar, when he landed, was so convinced that he was having these visions of the Emperor that he basically, his way of uniting Colchis was leading a religious revolution that worshipped the Emperor. And he's like, faith is the best thing ever. It unites people.
Yeah.
And I've been having these dreams about this golden guy. So that's actually the real god. Get rid of all this old god stuff. You need to be worshipping this golden guy. And then the golden guy's just told him he's not a god. So Erebus has spun that as, well, that means that he's a false god. And we need to just figure out who the real ones are. Maybe it's the old thing. So maybe the old faith of Colchis. We prayed to the wrong god for the right reasons, and Monarchia paid the price for our mistake. But it's never too late to atone. We purged our home world of the old faith, and now you fear as we all fear. Colchis prospered under the old ways and its legends until we ravaged it in the name of a lie. This is heresy, Lorgar trembled, barely containing his emotion. I read that as erection there.
This is heresy.
Lorgar trembled, barely containing his erection. It is atonement, my son. Corferon shook his head. We've been wrong for so long, we must purge the root of our errors. The source lies on Colchis.
Now, this, to me, says that Corferon and Erebus, it's their fault.
Well,
that was not Lorgar. Lorgar was like, what are you saying? Like, he's not come to that realisation. This is the seed being planted.
Yeah.
And it ain't a gene seed.
Corferon, Lorgar's horrified because he's like, but I've killed so many people in the name of God Emperor.
Yeah.
And Lorgar's
that was
like,
really interesting, wasn't it? He was like, but I've killed in the name of what I thought my dad wanted me to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really...
does. I mean, his dad does want him to kill.
Yeah. Just in the right way with no religion.
Corferon reveals that him and Erebus have found loads of cultures over the time they've been going around that had these religions that were really similar to the old faith on Colchis.
Yes.
And the old faith on Colchis, like, it worships these, 4 gods. You gently worships them. And what they did is, when they found them, they were like, well, this is interesting. Maybe there was something to this old faith. We'll just leave a few of them. So they've left a few of these old...
Yes, that was a really interesting thing.
We all know chaos worshipping cultures.
Yeah, it's like you're supposed to go and completely erase everything and then assimilate the planet, but they've left little pockets of as you'll see, cave drawings and relics and evidence of the warp gods.
And finally, they're like, well, this thing in the old faith, there was all these legends about going on the pilgrimage to find the land of the gods.
Is that a true thing in the lore?
It's sort of invented here. It's implied that that's what Colchis' religion believed. That you can go on a pilgrimage to find the gods, to find out what's true. And also, maybe you should chat to your mate Magnus, because he knows a lot about the warp. So he's like, right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to chat to my mate Magnus, and I'm going to go on the famous pilgrimage from the old stories. And I'm also going to write a new word, because the book of Lorgar exists, the word of the Emperor, which is this holy tract he's written. That book is where a sort of simplified version of that book is the Letitio Divinitatis. So Lorgar wrote this book about how the Emperor's God, and he's now like, right, I'm going to write a new word that we can all bear.
Yeah.
Right. Compliant with the imperial truth, but embers of cultures. Oh, he's like being like strangled. Compliant with the imperial truth, but embers of cultures were allowed to remain. What embers? Lorgar growled. Beliefs that match the old faith of home. I couldn't let potential truths die, says Corferon.
Oh Lord.
So yeah.
Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse, people.
Yeah. So we go back to Cyrene. Cyrene's all right. She gets a cell with a servitor in it, but she's a bit bored.
She was saved, but she's had a rough time of it because in the ruins she was, as I say, attacked.
She was attacked.
She's
had
blind.
not fun.
She's completely lost her faith.
Yep.
But she gets her own cabin on the ship.
Yep.
And then who comes to visit her?
Argel
Argel Tal.
Yeah, and he's like a bit confused. He's like, right, come on, I'd like to have a chat.
Yeah.
I'm a bit confused. How do I process being angry at God? Turns out he used to be Erebus's apprentice, but then he decided to do captaining instead of chaplaining.
Thank God. Run away.
Zathan goes in for a chat as well, and he's a bit sinister. Her eyebrows met in confusion above unseeing eyes. There's nothing else to worship but the divine. There are no gods but the Emperor. She heard Zathan take a breath. When the chaplain spoke again, his voice was soft as skill. Are you so certain, Cyrene? So it's obvious that this whatever Corferon and Erebus are teaching has now spread through the chaplains. Yeah. So all the chaplains are now, is he God?
See how easy it is to heresy?
Yeah.
Ugh.
So they go to another planet, which is called 4716, and Lorgar is a complete arsehole now.
Yeah.
This is 4716. Lorgar's contemplative smile remained, though melancholy robbed it of some conviction. A world of such great beauty. With his free hand, he smoothed his fingertips around his short brown beard, little more than neat stubble along his jawline. I do not believe the people of this world to be irrevocably corrupt, but as we have just seen, my judgment has its critics. Lorgar. The Emperor wishes the 17th Legion to conquer with greater alacrity. If a world cannot be brought to compliance with haste, then it must be purged to its core. So we come to this. Word bearers, said the Primarch. Kill every man, woman and child on that heretic world. So he's having a tantrum.
I mean... Yeah, and this this is all down to the Emperor just not having a chat. You know?
He's very much gone like, I'm going to do the judging.
Yeah.
Here's my statement.
And it's difficult because I like the Emperor to be my favourite, but even I'm a bit like, you're just setting these emotional bombs. Of course you're going to mess up your children, not children.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, but the Emperor point, I think, is always that, like, it's very late in the Crusade at this point. He really needs people to be doing shit, and actually this is not like a casual thing. This is like, you really have fucked up. This is massive. Well, we have to destroy these cities because they might still think I'm a god.
Yeah. And the Emperor is thinking, I have seen the only way to keep humanity safe. What are you lollygagging around taking your time?
I told you what to do.
Just get it done.
One fucking thing. Both him and Magnus are like, you've done the one thing I told you not to that potentially could kill everybody.
But there's a lot of Emperor lore in here as well, and you kind of get some understanding of why he makes his decisions. So it makes Lorgar seem so much more petulant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because then Lorgar goes, a bit like Magnus, Lorgar goes and then does the thing. Yeah. And the Emperor's like, well, there was a reason I was telling you not to do the fucking thing.
I think as well we get a lot... Aaron got to write a lot of because we had uncertainty, but the Emperor says actual things about what he's we learn what the Emperor actually saw in his vision. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
The word bearers to the Primarch kill everyone. So they're going to do this fight. So the people of this planet, they have these glass robot things. These glass constructions, there's loads of them. We learn a load of things from the fight. We learn that chaplains have black armour now because it symbolises their shame about Monarchia. So that normally the word bearers are grey. Yeah. But chaplains have black armour because of Monarchia. Argel Tal has 2 red iron swords that he uses that he likes. And also the best characters in everyone's favourite characters, the Carthage cohort are introduced, which are 4 happy robots. Yes. And they have a head robot called Incarnadine, and he's a little bit weird. Incarnadine did some heroic things. Obviously, a robot, but he did some heroic things. So the word bearers were like, great. you are now a member of our legion, Incarnadine the robot.
Here's your little oath thing.
They come to witness his oath of what moment because he's part of the legion. He's a robot, and his boss, like the robot handler's like, my robot's acting a bit weird.
The robot handler's Mechanicum, right?
Yeah, he's a Mechanicus guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, my robot shouldn't be able... I've completely rewritten all of his code, completely wiped his memory. He shouldn't be able to tell when the word-bearers come on, the robot gets excited.
Incarnadine, what's your baseline? I like word-bearers! Yeah, but also, the Incarnadine's brothers are all called... They're all called different variations around the word red.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. Really, I like that.
So they observe the custodies as well and how they fight. They're watching. There's a point where they're in the battle and Argel Tal and his mates are on a roof and they're watching these custodies fight.
The custodies are the nannies.
They're the golden guys. And there's got this really interesting observation, which is they're not brothers, Argel Tal said. Watch how they move. See how each one fights his own war alone, unsupported by the others. They're not like us. These are warriors, not soldiers. Yeah. Lions, the sergeant said. They're lions, not wolves, hunting alone instead of as a pack. Gold, not grey. Yeah. After the fight, there are these rites of remembrance, which you never know if this is actually a real thing or something Lorgar's just made up. But he's like, everyone needs to gather for my big speech. And because this is a traditional rite of remembrance, the custodies can't be here. And the custodies are like, we have to be here.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck you, we'll kill you if you aren't, puts them next to a teleport homer and teleports them back to the ship. This
is exactly the kind of thing the Emperor said. And if they wander off, they have to try any little powwows without you. Just make sure you listen.
Yeah. And he's like, this is a private meeting, all 100,000 of us, and Incarnadine the robot, but not the other robots.
Yeah.
And
Lorgar is the something of lies, or is that Erebus?
Lorgar?
I think Lorgar and or Erebus has a title like the Teller of Lies or something. Yeah. I don't know.
He says to the whole legion, he's like, right, we're going back to Colchis. We're going to prepare because I'm going to go and do the pilgrimage. They go to Colchis, and it turns out Cyrene is now a celebrity.
Yes, she's a survivor. Everyone knows she survived this flaming of the planet.
And he says, like, there's 7 survivors, she finds out, but not all of them are hot girls. So she's like the most beloved one.
Well, she was very, very holy in her, she was of the temple, so she's seen as like prophetess or something.
And everyone's like, wow, she's so cool. The Blessed Lady, they call her. And she has to like go out into a crowd, and she gets like an honor guard of like people around them who are all having like a little chat amongst themselves while they escort her to the church to be questioned by the pilgrims. She gets questioned by some priests, and then Argel Tal gets bored and makes some excuses so they can leave early. Is that not blasphemy, defying the will of the Covenant, says Cyrene. No, said Captain. It was a tactical retreat in the face of overwhelming boredom.
She smiled at that as the word bearers led her on. Yeah. So are we having a romance between Argel?
No, I just think there's a thing where like they've got a sense of humour.
Okay, good.
Like these are like she's like, all these priests from the official priesthood want to interview you, but fuck this. They're just a load of old men. We don't care.
Yeah.
There's like a bit of like, not weirdly, given that we just watched Red Demon Breaker.
Yeah.
They're actually, the word bearers are weirdly less hardline in their religion.
Yeah.
Like a Sister of Battle would never do this.
No.
But the word bearers are like, actually, you know what? Yeah, there's all these old priests. They all want to talk to you. We don't care.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also they're in formation of their new word beareriness, but
So Lorgar then has a psychic phone call with Magnus.
Yeah.
And we learn a ton of things. It all goes horribly wrong.
I like that. I like the phone call. Did you like the phone call?
I did, but partly because there's loads of stuff that is like,
one of my things is if Magnus can do psychic telephone calls, he should have done that a lot more with his other brothers and
maybe
all of that kind of stuff. But
Lorgar's a bit psychic, so maybe that's why he can do it.
Yeah, there was a really beautiful bit. It's just because I love the relationships between them all. So Magnus is like the big brother. Magnus was the highest in his affections, not only because he was the first of the family Lorgar had met, but because he was one of the few the word bearers Lord could relate to. The others were by varying degrees feral simpletons, cold-hearted instruments of warfare, or vainglorious warlords. Except for Horus, of course. It was impossible to hate Horus. And then you have Magnus, listening to him, and it says, Magnus remained silent. Despite all their talks, all their closeness, this was a tale he'd not heard from his brother's lips before. And they do love each other.
So basically,
Do you care?
No, it's nice. It's
It's
interesting
nice.
their relationship, but it's interesting what we find out in it as well, which is
Yeah.
like, right. So these are the things we learn in this conversation. Lorgar has had nightmares all his childhood because he was a bit psychic and didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
So he used to have screaming nightmares all the time. He feels like he wanted, his main thing has been to find meaning, to try and find some meaning to this life he's got. Apparently, the Emperor asked the Primarchs what they should do about the word bearers when he found out they were doing all this religion. Because there's this whole thing, like, the word bearers have been doing this for 100 years. The problem is that there's no real good astropathic, there's no real good communications at this time. They're off at the fringes of the galaxy, campaigning and pausing for ages to turn worlds into big churches.
Yeah.
And no one really... There isn't like an office that go and check afterwards.
No.
They're just like, yeah, they're in compliance, move on. And everyone's like, well, why are they so slow? And it took ages for anyone to go and check and go, oh, I've just been to some of the worlds.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all religious, right? So the Emperor's asked the other Primarchs what to do. Russ and Magnus were both on Lorgar's side.
Yeah.
They were both like, he's fine. Don't mostly because they didn't want to lose a third brother,
Yeah.
which implies the Emperor was like, do we need to kill him?
But also,
What shall I do?
I didn't know that the Primarchs knew they'd lost the other 2 Primarch babies.
They do, but they
and that's-
can't remember all the details about
Yeah,
them. Yeah, or they're
so-
sworn to silence about them. Yeah, we don't know why they've lost them as well. But yeah, Lorgar fundamentally believes that faith in anything is
Yeah.
a good thing because it unites people
Yeah.
and provides meaning. So if the Emperor isn't a god, then surely there might be other things that are.
I mean, it's a leap.
And every time he does this, Magnus is like really avoiding all the answers.
Yeah,
He's like
yeah,
really
yeah.
avoiding giving him a straight answer. And he's like, right, well, I'm going to go and find them then if you won't answer me.
Yeah.
And it gets, I wasted my youth, hunched over scripture and religious codices, planning for the Messiah's coming, believing he would give meaning to all human life, meaning that thousands of human cultures are forever seeking, and I was wrong. The Emperor brought meaning, said Magnus, just not the meaning you hoped for.
Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, mate. You think faith is about fear, about needing things explained to ignorant minds. Faith is the greatest unifying element in mankind's history. Faith was all that kept the light of hope burning through the millennia on the thousands of worlds we now reclaim in the Crusade. He is not a god as primitive cultures once understood the concept, but the Emperor is a god in all but name, Magnus. He is a psychic power incarnated within a physical shell. When he speaks, his lips never move and his throat makes no sound. His
Face is 1,000 visages at once. The only aspect of humanity he possesses is the facade he wears to interact with mortals.
That's a very, very melodramatic perception, says Magnus.
Yeah, and then the next line is, and it's true, the only difference between you and I is that you call him father and I call him a god.
Please, Magnus, if the Emperor is what he is, then there might be other beings that wield the same power. How can so many legends of divinity all agree on other powers that exist beyond the veil? There must be gods in the universe. Our species' most natural instincts cannot be wrong. What swims within the great ocean that you've always kept from us? What secrets hide within the warp? Why do you spend your life staring into it if there's nothing there? What if I asked our father about your secret travels into the ether? So yeah, he's like, he's right.
Yeah.
There are things in the warp.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
thing he's like wrong about is the bit where he's like, well, therefore we should worship them.
yeah, I mean, the great thing about this chapter is it's great conversation.
Yeah.
But it's like meta because it's asking all the questions we want to know the answers to. And we are getting hints and things that we're hearing stuff we've not heard before. It's so well written and you can feel that the pull and tug. 2 brothers that care for each other, but one trying to get this info out of the other one.
And Magnus is very aware that he knows there are these things in the warp, and he's like, they're predators, we just avoid them. Don't go near there. But he also knows that if he tells Lorgar they're there, Lorgar's instinct is, they must be gods, therefore I should worship them.
Yeah.
And he's like, the real thing with Lorgar isn't that he wants to find the truth, it's that he sees it as, therefore they must be, we should worship them.
Yeah.
That's actually the thing. And everyone knows the minute Lorgar finds out the Chaos Gods exist, he's going to worship them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's devastated that his father is not that what he believed in, and he needs something to hold on to.
Yeah.
But there's there's a brilliant ending to the chapter. Who are the voices, Lorgar screamed over the rising winds? Who calls to me? And Magnus, if you will not alter your path, there's only one thing that awaits you in the stars. Teaser, says Magnus. Lorgar stared in rapt silence, hungering for the answer, but Magnus spoke only a single word before vanishing in a burst of bright light and white noise. Misery. And that's so that's just foretelling everything that's going to happen.
And it's such an interesting conversation. Like they all know what these things exist, and the conversation, as you say, it's that conversation that everyone in Warhammer has, right?
Yeah.
Are they gods?
Yeah.
And the Emperor is like, the Emperor and Magnus's point is like, and Malcador's point is, there are certainly horrible, powerful things there. They will tell you they're gods, but they're horrible. Don't do anything about it. And Lorgar's like, great, so God then.
I mean, see, it doesn't make Lorgar seem crazy. It makes it seem like he is, that he's picking up, pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. But I think that's one of my favourite chapters I've ever read. Yeah. So many reveals.
So basically, but the plan is, Lorgar has a big meeting. The plan is, he's going to send the word bearers to the edges of the galaxy on crusade, looking for the place where gods and mortals meet, right? Conquer tons and tons of things, really, really far away, really, really fast, so no one can check on him. Outwardly, they'll just be recording the face of the people they come across, so the custodies won't suspect anything. The main fleet will go with Erebus and Corferon. But Lorgar is going to travel with Argel Tal and his fleet, with Cyrene as like their confessor.
Yeah.
So she's got this new job as like the confessor of the Astartes.
Yeah.
We cut to 7 months later.
Oh God! Guess what's happened in that time, kids?
Yeah, we see, this is horrible.
It's horrible.
So we see Argel Tal, Zaphon and his pals nommed by Ingathel the demon and turned into demons. And then we flash back to whatever the fuck just happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you know that was a part of this lore? The nomming and everything?
No, this is they went and conquered 7 worlds. And Xenu, who is the leader of Carthage Cohort, the tech priest, is a bit worried about how Incarnatine's onion brain is reacting to being a word bearer. The flare of perception, along with the faintest adjustment of its visual receptors, only ever occurred in the presence of word bearers. Like an animal instinctively recognizing its kin, Incarnadine knew when warriors of the 17th were near.
Oh my goodness.
Also, Cyrene's got a boyfriend.
Yay.
Aric Jesmatine. Who is a soldier, he's a major. And he sort of comedically has to run to get to a meeting because he's too busy in Cyrene's bed. Once the fleet, what's happened is, the fleet has discovered the Eye of Terror, everyone's a bit worried, and they're in orbit around a planet where everyone's got purple eyes.
Yay! Cadia. And also, remember when Eisenhorn had purple eyes?
Yeah. Interesting. Vendatha the Custodian, who's now a mate of Argel Tal's, is like, these people down on the surface are weird, let's kill them. But Lorgar's like, no, we're not going to kill them because they're speaking this language. It's really similar to what we used to speak on Colchis. And we want to find out why. So we're just going to observe. And when they meet a priest lady called Ingathel, and she's like a young woman who's like, I'm the head priest. And he's like, hey, Lorgar, your forefathers are very proud of you. You are the chosen of the gods. And they end up in this ritual where people are getting impaled on spikes. No. First. No. And Vendatha is like, no, this is freaking heresy. And he tries to stop it. And he kills Chapter Master Dumos, Argel Tal's boss, but then he gets impaled on a spike as the last sacrifice, and Ingathel turns into a horrific demon.
It's horrible. It's like there's like so many spaces. There's a space, everyone's been staked from the bottom through the mouth.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we needed to have that
Lorgar's
detail.
Just watching.
Lorgar,
Like, we're just observing.
Yeah, and people are saying to Lorgar, Ian was saying, people are saying to Lorgar, we should go, and Lorgar's like, no, we should really just stay. Keep an eye on this.
Just have a look. Ultimately, it was Argel Tal that ventured there first. We've split the Legion and sailed to the galaxy's edges, only to find this. The old ways of Colchis were right. Demons, blood sacrifice, spirits made flesh, all of it's real. Now Aurelian, Lorgar, lingers in the darkness, sharing words with that creature, deciding whether to sell our souls for even uglier answers. If this is enlightenment, brother, perhaps ignorance is bliss. So he's not very happy. Argel Tal's like, what the fuck is this?
No.
Zaphon's fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. This is where you see, like, Lorgar is, like, he's dedicated to this path.
Argel Tal and Zaphon are sent into the Eye with Ingathel aboard a ship called Orfeo's Lament.
Bloody hell.
They get demoned.
Thoughts and prayers to anyone on that ship.
Ingathel's like, right, smash open the windows, let the warp in. Get a demon up here.
They've all got demons up
They all get demons up them.
So nasty.
They're missing for 7 months. They have to eat the crew to survive. They come back, and it's like 5 seconds later. Everything is darkest, safe and mused before the dawn. That, my brother, is an axiom that sounds immensely profound until you realise it's a lie.
Yeah. I mean...
It's true. It's not darkest before the dawn. That's not how skies work.
This is the first heresy, the first heretic, because the demons are now within the Astartes and...
So, during this whole thing, they also have some weird spirit quests, because that's what happens when you're in the walk. They see a load of stuff.
Yeah.
They see the Eldar getting eaten by demons during the fall of the Eldar, which isn't that long ago at this point.
Yeah.
They go back to the Emperor's laboratory.
I know! That was so exciting!
Yeah, and they notice that there are Geller fields shielding the baby Primarchs. Primarch babies.
Primarch babies.
And Argel Tal breaks the Geller fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not his fault. It was a vision.
Also, is it real? We don't know.
think it
Ingathel
is.
says that the Emperor went to the Chaos Gods to get the power to make the Primarchs, and now he's betrayed the Chaos Gods by refusing to show humanity the primordial truth.
I don't believe it. Do you
It's a
believe
demon.
it?
Oh, it's a
Propaganda! Leave the
He's
Emperor
like,
alone!
Guys, the Emperor is a dick. Our father, all of our fathers, are the spawn of ancient blood rituals and forbidden science. Argel Tal couldn't help but laughing. The Emperor that denies all forms of divinity shaped his own sons with the blessings of forgotten gods. Prayers and sorcery are written upon their gestation pods. This is the most glorious madness.
That's not what we saw in Valdor.
No, it's not. It's not. But yeah, so that's what he's saying. Well, the Emperor turns out he's the mate of all these gods, and we're all, yeah.
What do you think?
Well, actually, I'm not going to tell you because we find out more later in this series.
How many books in?
Another 40 or so. So, Argel Tal goes and chats to Lorgar, and he realises he is now possessed by a demon.
That made me so sad. I really liked
got a demon
Argel.
in him. Yeah. Lorgar says he's happy because now he's got a purpose, and Argel Tal has been chosen by the gods. He also chats to Cyrene, who's worried that this is going to cause a war, but Argel Tal explains that they hope Lorgar can convince enough brothers to his side, and then so many brothers will be loyal to Lorgar first that it'll be okay.
No, stupid Space Marines!
He's going to convince all the brothers to be on his side with the truth.
No!
And then the Emperor will just be like, oh, I guess you guys are right.
Lorgar, stop! If you could only see. If you only listen to Magnus.
And he hides the demon down inside him because they'll be needed later. And he keeps training with Aquilon, and he tells Vendatha that the evil people on the planet killed him. Nothing they could do. They tried to save him.
This is viscerally painful reading.
Yeah,
You and I,
you're watching it go horribly wrong.
you and I have been on such a journey, and there has always been hope, but there now is these decisions are so deliberate and so damning, and once a demon's up you, there is no coming back.
Lorgar really likes it. He's announced, he gives him a promotion. He's like, right, I've announced the Galvor back, who are the chapter of the Serrated Sun, and Argel Tal is the chapter master. It's quite good, that. But what if we're being lied to? It would have been easy to say that faith was its own sustenance, that humanity always reached for religion, that almost every rediscovered human culture clung to their own belief in the infinite and the divine, like Rob Rath, and that here was a realm of prophecy where beings with the power of gods had proved beyond doubt that they'd summoned the Lord of the 17th Legion, shaping fate to make these events unfold. Whether they were benevolent creator gods from mythology or mere manifestations of mortal emotion was irrelevant. Here was the divine force in a galaxy of lost souls. On the edge of the physical universe, gods and mortals had finally met, and mankind would fall without their masters. So they're like, well, we've found heaven and it's full of gods, so I guess that's true. Let's keep going.
Moment of silence.
While the Galvor back join the rest of the fleet, Lorgar then goes on his pilgrimage, which is told in a different short story.
Yeah.
There's a short story a novella called Aurelian, which is about Lorgar going on his pilgrimage.
Is it in the Heresy?
Yeah, it's in the Heresy, so we'll get to it somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we cut to 40 years later.
No.
So this is, if you've followed now, we're probably like very close to Isstvan. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. We meet Ishak Kadeen, who's a remembrancer, assigned to the fleet of the Serrated Sun, who are very famous. Argel Tal is known as the Crimson Lord. Cyrene is still the Blessed Lady, but Aric's now a general. Argel Tal and Zafin talk about the sneaky chaplain Horus project and how they've convinced the Iron Warriors to burn their homeworld, Olympia. Everything's going well. Argel Tal... Argel thinks that it's Erebus and Corferon's idea because Lorgar is a golden being who's way too nice to do anything like that. It must be that horrible Erebus and Corferon.
I think...
Lorgar's great.
I mean, Erebus and Corferon led Lorgar down the garden path.
Yeah, Lorgar's completely innocent, right?
He's also a bastard.
He's also a bastard. Ishak sees Argel Tal and Aquilon fighting together, but Argel Tal has a demon attack, as it looks like the demon inside him is waking up now. They hear about Horus turning traitor, and they're summoned as part of a retribution fleet at Isstvan 5 to deal with this.
I wanted to stop here.
Yeah.
I wanted to stop here.
They arrive and they gather with the Legion above Isstvan. They meet the Alpha Legion, the Night Lords and the Iron Warriors, and Lorgar does a speech. Sevatar of the Night Lords, who's the first captain of the Night Lords, is the first person to say, "Death to the false emperor." So these are all four of the legions that are going to land second and betray the people who land first, right? Iron Warriors, Raven Guard, Salamanders land first. Then these four turn up and land second, and then catch them in a crossfire.
Yeah, I mean, there's one really horrible line where Argel Tal says, "I thirst."
Yeah.
He goes, and we've liked him, and he goes, "I have tasted Astarte's blood, Erebus. It is rich enough to never fade from memory, and its genetic holiness stings the tongue. I will taste it again on Isstvan 5.
Yeah.
Like, all hope is lost. You know, abandon all hope, ye.
So they land. They do their landing on Isstvan 5. We've seen this a little bit from the other point of view.
Yeah.
We land behind the battle. So the Iron Hands are fighting. The Salamanders are like, great, the reinforcements are here. They head for the newly landed Iron Warriors, who are secret traitors. The Raven Guard turn round and they head back to the Word Bearers and to the Night Lords' positions.
Yeah.
Then the Galvor back suddenly get demoned. Their demons all wake up and they turn into possessed, and the betrayal begins. Lorgar, Erebus and Corferon are watching the duel between Fulgrim and Ferrus, and Lorgar points out that this was all Erebus and Corferon's idea.
Yes.
And then he orders the betrayal anyway, because he's just saying that for plausible deniability, really, we think. By this point, he's like, anyway, this was your guy's idea.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Order the betrayal. Kill them all. Argel almost gets killed by Corax of the Raven Guard, but Lorgar intervenes. But Lorgar's shit at fighting, and he cannot win. And what happens is Conrad Kurz, who is the Night Lord's Primarch, saves him. You get the impression nobody likes Lorgar very much. Even Conrad is like, you're pathetic.
Yeah.
Corax is like, you're pathetic, I'm going to kill you. Then Conrad Kurz has to save him, and Conrad Kurz is like, oh, you're pathetic. I
mean, there's a really nice bit in here where Lorgar is thinking about his relationships with Ferrus and Fulgrim. And he's remembering how they spoke to him as brothers, and it's really, really lovely again. But it's just, it makes it even worse that they have this flashback to this brotherly love.
We were great brothers. And anyway, this was all Erebus and Corferon's idea. Kill them all. You're like, you dick.
But it feels horrible, like watching Fulgrim cut his head off.
Yeah.
I mean, we're never ever going to hear about his story because he dies.
There's a few flashbacks coming up, but
he doesn't get a book in the Heresy though.
He gets like there's some short stories from the Great Crusade. But you don't get a Heresy book because he dies at the start of it. Meanwhile, on the ship, Ishak Kadeen's wandering about. He bumps into Arik. He chats to him, and then he finds a spooky secret anti-astropath room that Zafin is using to make sure all the Custodies' messages back to Terra never get any further. And it's full of like mangled astropaths. The Red Room, it's called.
Horrid.
He's really shaken, and he goes for a drink with the astropath. He goes for a drink in the sort of weird bar downstairs, the Remembrances bar, and in there is the astropath that works for the Custodies. And the astropath's like, what the fuck did you find? And he takes him to Aquilon and reveals the truth. They go to interrogate Cyrene, because she's still on the ship. But protecting Cyrene is Xenu and Incarnadine, who fight against the Custodies. By the time Argel Tal and Zafin get back, Cyrene is dead. They kill the Custodies, but Zafin's dead, and Argel Tal takes Aquilon's blade. Also, sad, Incarnadine, the robot, it dies in it. And that's the end of the book.
We're having a lot of moments of silence.
So Cyrene dies, Incarnadine dies, Xenu dies, Zathan dies, and Argel Tal, and all the custodians get killed, and Argel Tal takes Aquilon's sword, which weirdly works for him and shouldn't.
Yeah.
Aquilon's spear.
I wrote down how I felt at the end of the book. Eviscerated.
Hey, like a demony sacrifice.
Eviscerated but barely beating heart remains. Flipping heck.
Flipping heck. So, yeah, I've written down under Did We Like This, I've written, well, an awful lot happens in this book, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've also written down some questions from you.
Okay, right.
And some affirmations from the word bearers.
Okay, all right.
Well,
good.
Where are we going?
Let's do those.
Steer us. Would you like an affirmation from the word
Yeah,
bearers?
go for it. Yeah, all right.
So I thought we could use this as a self-help book.
Okay, all right, good.
I was trying to find the good
There's
in the
a lot of
bad.
discussion of that, yeah.
Yeah. It is the mark of greatness to deal with one's mistakes. That's
very
from
good.
Cor Farron.
Yeah, yeah.
Page 80. Page 75. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes.
Very good.
Page 79. No, we've done that one. Page 79. It is never too late to atone. So all the way through,
Yeah,
it's just like, what do you mean? That you should be nice. Stop. It's so, I thought it was so clever the way they feed all those things through.
There's so much in this that I really like about how, like, all these things, there's another one which is like, there are hints throughout the word bearers are actually really horrible, right? So there's Monarchia, squalor, disease, child sex workers. Our heroes are from the chapter of the Osseous Throne. Their sigil is a heap pile of human skulls. When we're shown the fall of the Eldar, Argel Tal thinks the reason it's horrible is that genocide should be a purification, not a demon thing. Like, they're objectively terrible all the way through. It's presented like they're very thoughtful people who are just trying to help. You're like, the idea that he's watching the Eldar being genocide and he's like, this is horrible. Genocide should be a purification.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cleverly written. I had a couple of questions, quick ones.
Mm-hmm.
You studied the Old Faith, and I wondered if that was an actual thing, but you kind of qualified.
It gets invented for this. But there is an idea that they keep coming up against planets who have sort of defaulted. Their religion has ended up being the worship of chaos in some form, maybe by different names.
Yeah.
I think here it's like Cain, Tenet, Narag, and Zlan are the four great pilgrims who brought religion. And you're like, that's in their myths. And you're like, the implication is exactly what the Emperor says, which is that eventually all religions will end up, if you're religious, you'll end up worshipping chaos because it's the one that works.
Yeah.
If you worship chaos, it will actually work. So any religious culture ends up eventually worshipping chaos, maybe by different names, but in some way, because that's the stuff that works. That's why you can't allow any religion. Just don't have religions,
The other question I had is Hall of Leng a thing? They'd spoken often in the Hall of Leng, that cold regal chamber on distant terror.
I don't know if it's been mentioned before, but it's just a room in the palace that everyone mentions. Like, there's a load of these that you never really get a proper map. But there's all these famous halls, the Hall of Leng or the council chambers and all this sort of thing. There's a load of them.
Wowie zowie.
Yeah. We get a lot of real reveals, but all these reveals, like the way in which the Primarch's babies were scattered, are shown to them by a demon.
I don't know if I
so we don't know if they're true.
Yeah. I mean, clearly the Emperor has known of the chaos gods and potentially has interacted with them. But would he do that? I don't think he would. Did
the Emperor really betray the Chaos Gods by not showing humanity the primordial truth? Like, he got power, apparently he got power from the gods. We don't know at this point if that's true, because it's from a demon. Like, we got to remember, the last time anyone got shown stuff by demons was when Horus was turned, and what Horus was shown was actual 40k in its decrepit Emperor dead state after the heresy, and the demon went, look, they don't remember you.
Demons are so tricksy, but I mean, I think the implication was that the Emperor tapped into banned science, right? So that's how potentially he made the Primarch babies. But the demon's saying, no, I gave you a bit of magic dust to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm confused. I mean, it's really hard to...
So loads of things are raised where you get a load of info, but it only raises more questions.
More questions!
Yeah, exactly. It's
Are
brilliant.
they answered in book 60, 61?
Yeah, something like that, New Legion alert. So we've got the Ultramarines now.
Yeah.
We've only seen one Ultramarine so far. Mr. Fisty guy from the Battle for the Abyss.
Yeah, I really wanted to like Guilliman.
Yeah, so this is the
how do you say it?
Ultramarines.
Gilliman.
Gilliman. Yeah.
I really wanted to like him.
It's one of those things, right? I always get pulled at, like, the way in which Games Workshop have chosen to say that name is not how that's going to be said. Okay. So he is Robute Gilliman, not like Robute Guiman. Which I think is probably
say
more
that
accurate.
to annoy people.
Yeah, Guilliman.
Guilliman.
Yeah, I think that would be what it actually. Anyways, Robute Gilliman.
Robute Gilliman.
Yeah. Like a British person saying French badly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Silver plate.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
80s satire, that definitely makes sense. I felt like he was very authoritarian. I didn't think he was boring. I felt he had a bit about him.
Mm-hmm. He's quite like faceless. He's like just stern, and I have to do this job, and but Lorgar is petulant and angry. Yeah. So he comes across very aloof.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
Word bearers. So, are you more sympathetic to the word bearers now? They had their reasons for completely falling to the worship of chaos and turning everyone against the Emperor and starting the Horus Heresy and destroying the Imperium.
I have more...
They were good reasons.
I have more compassion and sympathy to Lorgar, but Erebus and Corfairan, it seems they were dyed-in-the-wool evil. And not only that, meticulous and planning and scheming and... You know, the Emperor's kind of planned out generations of like harmony and save humanity. These two have just been like...
It does involve a lot of people dying, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, it does a lot. But these two are like, let's just get to the heart of the warp. A little. I feel a bit sorry for Lorgar. Yeah. He feels misled.
But there's this thing all the way through it where you're like, is he? Is he misled? There's a few things where you're like, you tricked how much is it? They think they tricked a Primarch, and then there's a whole thing where you're like, Lorgar's much cleverer than you. Is he just using them as...
He would have had to do acting when he was crying and stinky.
But it's probably a mix of the two, right?
I think, like Dexter, he was a serial killer story, basically. So Lorgar got told all this information by his two surrogate dads. And then when he saw the ritual, he was like, oh, I'm a bit into this. And that's when his evilness, so that was always maybe there unkindled. And then maybe that's when he went full and letting the demons go up them.
I think there's also a bit of like plausible deniability. He's like, I want to be seen as the person, I'm the Primarch who listens.
Yeah. And he has got that mad kind of, that religious kind of bent where he's like, there must be a God, it must be this way.
He's been raised in a culture that absolutely believe fundamentally that there must be a God you should worship.
Yeah.
Therefore, they have to find it. And that's the thing that, like, his faith is based on that. So when his faith is broken by Monarchia, the first thing he does is he doesn't go, well, okay, I must be an atheist now. He goes, well, what? It's almost like he can't process the idea. He sort of simultaneously fundamentally believes that faith is good in unifying and worth it, and also can't really process the idea that that's wrong.
I think he's underdeveloped emotionally, as most of the Primarchs are. I mean, I don't like the word bearers. I don't like them. But I can have some sympathy for them.
Well, when I put up the question list for this, you can understand that I put it up for 3 books, Demon Breaker, Prospero Burns, and this.
Yeah.
And this got the most questions. So, shall we go through them? Mira from Kazoo Raptor. After giving every word bearer you've met an impressively high rank on the bastard scale and seemingly hating them on sight, has this book made you more sympathetic to them, or has seeing more of them only made you dislike them more?
Oh, I do, like I just said, I feel more sympathetic to them because I can see how they've been manipulated by brainy people. And I feel sorry for, like, for example, Argel Tal. He has no choice but to behave in that way because he's had a demon put up him. So I feel sorry for those, members of staff. But I think when anything was erased when Lorgar was watching his brother's head being cut off, having remembered a really warm interaction. Oh, why do I feel?
And then he's like, fuck him.
Yeah, I feel a bit like I want to cry, but he was remembering Ferris giving him something off the anvil.
Giving him. And Ferris, the memory's really, really telling because Lorgar's like, thanks, big brother, you've given me this big mace I've got. And Ferris is like, yeah, whatever, it'll help.
Yeah.
This is what I do, fuck off.
And so...
Because Ferrus doesn't like him either. None of them like him.
No. So I felt like at that point, I was like, I can't, it's too much.
Yeah.
But I did feel sorry for Lorgar because he seemed like the little brother. Everyone was like,
Yeah. That's actually a really telling interaction, right? Because the whole thing, right, is that no one likes Lorgar. Like, and Ferrus is like, you're my brother, so I've made you this anvil because I just stay in this forge all the time making weapons for everybody. So it's your turn. Here's your hammer.
Yeah.
Still is treating him like shit. And Lorgar's like, oh, he secretly must like me.
Yeah, I mean,
and Ferrus has given no indication that he does.
I mean, me being
like,
me, I read into that.
He secretly must like me.
Me being me, I did read into that. There was a little bit more affection than maybe.
But that's Lorgar would certainly like to think that Ferrus was showing him affection.
That's why I often end up with boyfriends that don't like me.
Oh, really?
I'm like, you looked at me over, from the supermarket trolley. You must love me now. I really hate you.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I don't hate them as extremely as I used to hate them. Mm-hmm. But I still hate them.
Will to be, what are your thoughts on Argel Tal and Loken being sort of mirrors of each other, and Argel Tal being pressed into the path not walked for Garviel?
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Is he like straight man in the Word Bearers?
It's interesting because, like I said, at the very beginning of the book, when he was collected by Erebus, you knew that he was marked out. He was going to be like the Mary Sue of, the baddies. So I felt like his journey was a little bit unique because it showed his humanity and it showed him kind of quavering at the sight of stuff, but then he was pushed into this fate he couldn't get out of. I feel his journey was a little bit more complex than Garviel, who stayed all the way through, like very...
Yeah, he disagrees with Horus at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, how Loken and... That's an interesting question, how they mirror each other. I didn't feel that they mirrored each other, but I felt that they had a relationship where Lorgar kind of liked and loved him, but also saw him as a tool, which is kind of a little bit like how the Emperor sees Lorgar, and I felt like, generationally, monkeys see what your mum and dad do, and then monkey do it. And I thought it was that was kind of like a very ironic, kind of literally way of saying, well, my dad mistreated me, so now I'm going to use you, and you have to go and do this.
I love you, my son, now have a demon up you.
Say no more, Ian.
Interested to see where, look, Thomas Parry says, interested to see where Lorgar falls on the bastard scale. Does being humiliated, we'll find that out in a bit, does being humiliated on orders of his dad for not being a big enough murderer earn him some sympathy, or is it still all his fault? So we'll get to that in a bit.
Oh, crikey.
Philip says, woo, first heretic time. To what extent do you think Lorgar fell versus being pushed? We've sort of talked about that. Given recent real-world events, I've been thinking about this story through the lens of political radicalisation. Yeah, and it makes me wonder whether this was always the end result of his ideological exploration, or if he would have settled on something less extreme if Corferon and Erebus hadn't manipulated him one way or another. Because, that's essentially it. Like, he suffers a great loss and then becomes massively radicalised, all hardline down into let's bumsteak people. And like that level of and put a demon up people and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Would he have, if Corferon and Erebus hadn't been there?
Yeah.
I think it's unlikely Lorgar would have gone atheist, which is what the Emperor wants. But would he have found some sort of middle ground?
It's interesting because I feel after they raised his favourite city, his favourite planet, he was so vulnerable. He was open for whoever was going to sidle in. And perhaps if Erebus and Corferon hadn't had that insidious plan, the next person that could have spoken to them could have been Magnus. And Magnus had a regard and a love and was trying to explain and guide him. So I do think 100% without the machinations of those two and their research and them leaving, if they hadn't fucked up, sorry, I keep swearing. If they hadn't kept those little bits of old culture, there would have been nothing to research. Do you know that?
Well, I mean,
it would have been a bit. You'd have had to work for it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's true.
He's just.
I think there's definitely the conversation between Lorgar and Magnus does end you in this place where I certainly go to it going, right, so let's say he didn't, Erebus and Corferon weren't there.
Yeah.
And Magnus tries to do the same thing, let him in on a bit of a secret. Right, don't go looking in the warp. Look, there are definitely these horrific beings, but you really shouldn't worship them because they're really bad.
Yeah.
I think that conversation tells you is that Lorgar would still do it.
I don't know.
Lorgar would still worship them. And I think that's why the Emperor's like, do I just kill him? Because there is no world in which Lorgar finds the smallest amount of information about the warp and doesn't try and worship it.
I don't know. I felt it was so set up for him. There was a pilgrimage trail. They'd set up rituals for him.
But what I'm saying is, like, if none of that happened, and it was just Magnus the Emperor going, all right, look, you need to stop worshipping because here's how chaos works.
Well,
would Lorgar not just worship it anyway?
He was left in an almost catatonic state, you know, in his loincloth like a teenager because he'd lost everything that he believed in. He thought he was doing the right thing and he learned he wasn't. And he was saying, everything I've done for the Emperor, what's going on? He wasn't in a state of mind to go, I want to do this, this and this. He was very much guided into it. And if someone had come along and guided him to say, okay, Dad wasn't this, but we've got that. I'd give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt. But having seen how he was after seeing the ritual, he had the evil in him. Oh, it's a hard one. I could talk about this for days.
It's great, isn't it?
It's good.
Adam Ridley says, is the death of a robot in Carnadine the saddest death in the Horus Heresy so far? I think so.
Oh, wow.
Poor Incarnadine. It's basically a puppy.
Why are these questions
It's a big
for me?
metal puppy.
I didn't think it was the saddest death because I've cried before.
Okay, fine.
And I didn't cry when Incarnadine died.
When Incarnadine the puppy robot died.
I was also thinking, I always think this and it's stupid, they could maybe bring him back or he'll have a cell in him. But I kind of knew the foreshadowing was that she was going to die. Our prophetess. She almost kind of predicted it. And then you knew because he cared for her that he was going to die. And there were all these things like the Mechanicus.
No, Argel Tal cared for her.
You knew the robot was going to die.
Yes.
Because he was protecting her. And I felt like the robot cared for her. Oh. And I also felt like, the foreshadowing was such... Because the Mechanicus kept saying... there was a couple of hints where he was like, this is weird, or da-da-da, or they were noticing. I'm sorry that you thought it was sad, Adam. I'm sending you some tissues.
Andrew Dowler, final question for both Mira and Ian. Who actually was the first heretic? So a heretic is anyone who breaks with the orthodoxy. That's the definition of a heretic. So who's the first heretic? Is it? Isn't it Erebus?
Ian will just tell us. Who is it?
It's actually very hard to tell. You could argue that Erebus and Corpheron always worship the faith of the old people, so they aren't heretics.
But
a heretic is someone who goes against the orthodoxy, although they were already against the orthodoxy.
The orthodoxy is still the imperium of man.
Yeah, so they already thought that.
Erebus is the first heretic.
Yeah.
And he goes to get little baby Tal.
Well, Corpheron's older than Erebus, so maybe Corpheron's the first heretic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bastard scale. It's going to be a long one.
Lorgar.
We've
done Lorgar before, haven't we, on the
Lorgar this time. Now you know. You can overwrite Lorgar's score. Post first heretic.
Let's come back to him. Who's next?
Corpheron and Erebus.
11. 11! You leave him alone. You needed to just retouch his makeup. Give him a cuddle and a bath. 11. Horrible, horrible, horrible men. You should have a big, hard, long think about what you've done.
Argel Tal.
He's not on the bastard scale.
He is still a horrific murderer with a load of skulls and he's got a demon up him.
The demon up him is on the bastard scale, but demon's going to demon.
Yeah, fair enough, okay.
So 3.
For the demon.
Yeah.
Is 3 a standard demon level?
Yeah, you made us because you were like, demon's going to demon.
Robute Gilliman. Is he a bastard?
Is he a bastard? He could have been a lot meaner. He could have been like, you're scum, Dad hates you.
Okay.
You've messed this up.
Yeah, it's true. He was just pretty like, this is a bit pathetic.
Although you shouldn't say people who are just doing their jobs are not bastards, and he probably revelled in it a bit. This is what goes on in bastard scale math. I'm going to give him 4.5.
Okay, Robute Gilliman, worse than a demon. The Emperor on the bastard scale, given that he's the one who destroyed the perfect city. Not perfect, but destroyed the perfect city.
The Emperor can't go on the bastard scale. Oh, no. Let's go back to Lorgar.
Lorgar.
Oh, for this book only.
Yeah.
No, he still watched his brother die. I'm going to give him 9.9.
And the Emperor?
I don't want to put him on the Barca scale.
Fine, the Emperor's not on the Barca scale. This is about everything. There we are. So that's the first heretic. We've done the first heretic.
Yay!
Well done, Mira. You got through it.
Really great. One of my favourites, even though I hate Reddit and I had a few rants on my channel when Ian, I feel abashed to ring Ian and cry at him or moan at him. So
Good.
I'm glad it's done.
Glad it's done. Well, we can move on to the next in the Horus Heresy
Yay!
series, which is another famous one. It's Prospero Burns.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
I'm not looking forward to... I don't like Space Wolves.
Well, will you still not like Space Wolves?
I like Dan Abnett, so it'll probably be a bloody good book.
Right. Well, here we go then. Thanks, everyone. You can see all the stuff below. Buy some merch. Watch some channels. Do some things. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.